So there's a lot of stuff percolating to the top in the middle of this, my friend, and want to get your perspective on, Trump saying I have total control, total authority. I can understand how he can get there through federal safety standards in the workplace. He does kind of set policy there. But I think he left a lot to the governors on shutting down their states and left a lot of the right to do it and strategy on doing it to the state governors. It seems like for the most part, everybody didn't jump on the train right away, but the governors did a pretty decent job because the results are great that we're seeing right now. That it's slowing, it's going down, Now he wants to maybe federally open everything up. Michigan, they basically said farmers can't buy seeds, so causing literal outbreaks and riots where people are supposed to be staying in their houses. What goes on here, pal?
Yeah, look, I think we are accomplishing what the Chinese never could in the United States. We have creeping authoritarianism and totalitarianism. Trump's response is clearly a knee-jerk reaction to the media, which is the opposition party, claiming that he hasn't done enough. So he's trying to do something. So his statement was clearly him attempting to say that he would lead the effort. And he's received criticism. But there's been real authoritarianism on the part of our governors, whether it's Andy Beshear in Kentucky or it's Governor Whitmer there in Michigan. Depending on what the restriction is, something as basic as seeds and we saw them blocking things in Walmart, things like American flags in Michigan, or Beshear in Kentucky, restricting people's First Amendment rights for meeting for their houses of worship. It's so ironic, right? China, their authoritarian state, has given us this pandemic, has infected the entire world. And yet here in the United States, our reaction is to put in place a form of governance that has failed the world thanks to what China did. So where do we go from here? I think we're seeing people begin to say, some of this stuff is arbitrary, capricious, it's ridiculous. It's exactly what our founders were afraid of. In time of a crisis is what defines where your rights actually are and how they exist. And if we can't have them, if we can't have rational exercises of First Amendment rights, whether it's assembly, whether it's speech, whether it's religious practices, then what are we as a nation? And I think our elected officials need to understand that while, yes, they have a duty to protect us, they also need to consider our Constitution. And, we saw an interview with Phil Murphy of New Jersey, where he said that he didn't even consider the Bill of Rights, that it was above, quote, his pay grade. And I think that's because our elected officials are responding out of fear as opposed to what is best for public policy.
Jaden?
I hear you now.
Oh, man. No, I was saying that, I'm sorry, the sound must have dropped out, but when the governor takes away people's First Amendment freedoms because she has an emergency order at the state level, does the governor's orders supersede the Constitution?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And, fundamentally understanding that all executive orders have to comport with constitutional restrictions and provisions. That's what makes them constitutional. Executive orders are an exercise of the executive's prerogatives. Those prerogatives only exist within the confines of the Constitution. We can't have our governors say that you can't have protests, you can't assemble. Now, the accommodation is, of course, be 6 feet apart, but they can't say there's no meeting, there's no trials, there's no anything. That is not a power that they have. We do not live in a state that allows police state powers. We don't live in a country like that.
No, I'm totally with you on that. I thought it was quite extreme, and I would imagine it would take a lot to get New Yorkers to protest anything right now, because it's been the fear mongering, and the death tolls are there. God bless everyone and their families, but still I'm wondering. I know probably most of the country can pop back up and just be a little more careful. But I'm wondering, when the city that never sleeps, when it does finally take a nap, how long it takes to wake it up. You know what I mean?
I mean, New York City is the economic engine of the United States. Anyone that tries to say it's Silicon Valley is just wrong. There is the largest GDP contribution in the entire world in a metropolitan area is New York City. The fact that it's closed for this is kind of unconscionable, but it has to be. And you're right. What will it take for it to restart? I don't think you're going to see the protests that you see in Michigan or in Kentucky here in New York for a number of reasons. I think in terms of leadership, Governor Cuomo has been quick to lead on this. Everything that he says, has been accurate. Some has been, hyperbolic when it comes to needs, but he has resisted efforts to prevent people from going outside like they did in London, or using drones to track people. He was quick to say that schools should close, and state resources shouldn't be used to try to force people to attend schools. He got into a tiff with the mayor over that issue. So I think we're not seeing that type of thing here in New York, for a number of reasons, but mostly because leadership matters in a crisis, and I think our governor understands that. I wish the rest of the governors in our country would understand that. I think our president most certainly understands that, which is why you don't see a tit for tat with them.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel like it's two people that I don't typically root for, but almost at every turn, Governor Cuomo has pimp slapped de Blasio. Pimp slapped him. Just, yeah, you might think that's right, but whaba, sit back down.
Yeah.
I'm in charge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think because de Blasio has failed. He has failed as mayor.
Yeah, and he has. I love the way he does it. He'll be backhanded complimentary. Well, that's very good. The mayor's done a good job, but that's for me to decide. The buck stops here. You know what I mean? So he gives it to him on a good, solid Billie Jean King backhander. Yeah, great. That's all good. You're doing a great job. Let me talk about that stuff. I think there's, Warren Wilhelm has been emasculated by the governor a number of times here, the way I see it.